Next, for interpretation of precipitation of data, it is average precipitation over an area. Okay, so till now we have done with two particular steps. So that is, the first one is we checked for the continuity of the data with the help of three methods, that is arithmetic average. Second one was normal ratio method, and the third one was multiple regression method. Whereas the second step was to determine the inconsistency in any of the rainfall data that has been collected. So that has been done with the help of double mass curve technique. Now the last one is to determine the average precipitation over an area. So to do that, we have again three methods. One is arithmetic mean method, second one is Thiessen polygon method, and the third one is iso-Heitel method. So let us go in detail about each of these. Mean precipitation over an area. The rainfall records obtained by the rain gauge network gives the point rainfalls, which is the sampling of the areal distribution of the storm. However, for the hydrological analysis, the average rainfall over the catchment is required. The average rainfall over the basin is obtained from these measured point rainfall data using one of the following methods. So here what they are trying to say is, if I consider this as my catchment area, okay, and imagine I have let us say three rain gauge stations with me. At that point of time, each of the rain gauge stations which are there, okay, so these are very small when you compare it with its effective areas. Okay, if I make these effective area differentiation something like this, then the area what I am going to have for each of these rain gauge stations is too huge when you compare it with the area of this small opening or a small rain gauge station what we are going to have. So for that reason, what we need to have is, we need to make sure that this particular small representation by the rainfall measurement, that is with the help of rain gauge stations, will represent the entire area rainfall characteristics accurately. So for that we will be taking the help of means these particular three methods which are available to us. Now keeping this in mind, uh, we need to means why these three different methods are there, okay, or else why do we need this mean precipitation over the area. So for that I will just try to show you a calculation with respect to this. Imagine this is rain gauge station 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Okay, so whenever I want to get the total volume of rainfall that has occurred over this entire catchment area, what my formula is, basically here it will be depth of rainfall into the effective area. Okay, and for this particular example what I have shown over here, so this total V, that is total V volume, will be is equals to what, D1 into A1, okay, plus D2 into A2 plus D3 into A3. Okay, so now with the first two methods for the continuity and the inconsistency what we had made, so with those two methods we made sure that the D1 value, okay, sorry, this D1 value, this D2 value, and this D3 value is continuous, plus it is consistent. So there are no much of a error which can be found out with the help for this D value. Okay, so for the first two steps what we have done, that is basically for the calculation of this D values. Sorry, not calculation, but we made sure that these D values are continue, there are no discontinuous data over there. If even if it is there, we have found out with those methods, and along with that this value is consistent also, so there is no error for this values that has been collected. Now with this third step what we have to determine the mean precipitation, okay, here we are going to concentrate on how to calculate this value of A1, A2 and A3, because once you get the value of these three, then only you can determine what will be the mean precipitation over the entire area. I hope this point is clear. So in the previous two steps, we have concentrated on this D, that is the rainfall data that has been collected from the rain gauge stations. But now in this particular step, we are going to concentrate on these effective areas. Once I get the effective area, then only I am going to get the mean precipitation. So even if I want to give you general formula for this mean precipitation, so mean precipitations can be given as P bar. So what this equation is going to be, it will be basically what, mean precipitation over the area. It will be like here is the same nomenclature if I need to use. So it will be what, D1 into A1. So whatever the above formula we have, the same thing will be there, D2 into A2, yeah, plus D3 into A3, divided by the whole area. Or here in this case I can write it as, here I can write it as A1 plus A2 plus A3. So basically this will give you the mean precipitation over this entire area. But this entire area, since it is has 3 rain gauge stations, and we need to determine the effective area for each of these rain gauge stations individually, then only we can find out this particular mean, total mean precipitation. So how to determine this A1, A2, A3, that is effective area for each of these rain gauge stations, will be done with the help of these three methods which are there. But ultimately you want to determine this P average with the help of these three methods. Okay, so let us go one by one in detail about this. First one is arithmetic mean method. I'll read out with the theory. If the variation in the rainfall data obtained from the rain gauge station is very little, then the average precipitation over the area is estimated as P bar is equals to 1 by n summation of I varying from 1 to n of Pi. So I'll repeat myself. If the variation in the rainfall data obtained from the rain gauge station is very little, then the average precipitation over the area is estimated as P bar is equals to 1 by n summation of I varying from 1 to n of Pi, where Pi is the precipitation data at the ith rain gauge station in the given period. This method is used rarely in practice. The reason is what? It is very crude. So the accuracy for this particular method is very less. So that's why this arithmetic mean method is rarely used. So what they are trying to say in this particular explanation is, if I have these three rain gauge stations placed, okay, so what they are saying is this average precipitation will be 1 by n. So 1 by, here it will be 3, it will be 1 by 3 which is going to be there. So this P bar is given by 1 by 3 into bracket. So what this summation of 1 by this I varying from 1 to n of Pi, what it is indicating is, since I have 3 rain gauge stations over here, so it is as good as I am just going to add up all these 3. Okay, so the precipitation what I have got from the rain gauge station 1, that is P1, plus we have it from P2, that is P2 second one, and then we have it from the third one, that is P3. If I have all these three things at once, and if I just divide it by 3, that is nothing but a simple arithmetic average. If I take it, so that itself will come under what, this arithmetic average. And because of this crude nature, it is just a simple arithmetic mean that we are calculating. So that's why for a practical purpose, this arithmetic mean method is rarely used. Okay. Second way of determining the average precipitation, that will be with the help of Thiessen polygon method. Okay, so first let us go through the theoretical aspect of that, then we'll go for the explanation. Okay, in this method, the area of influence of each rain gauge station is obtained and used to estimate mean precipitation. So here what we'll do is we'll basically divide that effective areas into number of sections, and we have a particular method with which we can do that, and based on that we can get the mean precipitation for the whole area. Initially, the rain gauge of the catchment area A are joined to form a network of triangles as shown in the figure. Okay, so these dotted lines which are indicating basically this is first rain gauge station, second, third, fourth and fifth. Okay, if you check out here inside the rain gauge this catchment area, we have only 3 rain gauge stations, that is rain gauge number 1, 3 and 4, whereas the rain gauge station 2 and 5 are out of this catchment area A. Okay, but still we are taking the help of those particular rain gauge stations to get the effective areas for the rain gauge stations what we have inside the catchment area. Okay, keeping that in mind, first step will be to join them with a triangular network. Next, these lines are bisected and normals are drawn at the bisection points. Okay, so these continuous lines what you are seeing over here, okay, which is across the this dotted lines. So what this how this intersection is done is basically we are going to first bisect these dotted lines, okay, and then we are going to draw the normal at that bisection point. Okay, so that is how basically you need to do it for all the sections. These normals drawn at all the points give the polygons. Okay, right now if I try to show you with respect to a highlighter, okay, if you can check this for rain gauge station 4, if I consider, okay, so we have these dotted lines, so the effective area for this is going to be this highlighted area right now what I am showing. Okay, so this is nothing but the effective area for rain gauge station 4. Okay, so how this has been done? So if I just take, yeah, so first is they have formed the triangles. So how they have formed that triangles? That is with the help of these dotted lines. Okay, so what they have done is from rain gauge station 4, if I just want to give you a simple example, so from there I have just drawn a line till this first rain gauge station, then to the second rain gauge station, to the third rain gauge station and to the fifth rain gauge station. So these are nothing but the entire by these particular triangular sections what we have made with the help of rain gauge station 4. After that I had bisected these these dotted lines. So this is nothing but the first bisection line between the rain gauge station 1 and 4, and I have extended that till the end of this particular catchment area or till the one more bisection point is reached. So similarly this bisection line is indicating for what? For the intersection between the rain gauge station 4 and rain gauge station 2. Similarly this small bisection again we had done, similarly with this, and yeah, so this is touching the end of this catchment area. Okay, so with respect to this you can imagine we have this polygon which is not of a regular shape. Okay, it is of irregular shape what we have got. So this is how the polygons are created, or what we call it as Thiessen polygons, which will be created for the determination of effective area. Okay, now coming back to the theory. However, these bisectors are extended up to the boundary of the catchment. So as I have said, so in this case, so in this section I have extended till the boundary of the catchmented area. Okay, the area enclosed in these polygons represent the area of influence coming under each station. So I'll repeat once again, such polygons are however, the area enclosed in these polygons represent the area of influence coming under each stations. Okay, so such polygons are called as Thiessen polygons. So in this case, if I need to explain with respect to the formula which is given below, if A1, A2, A3 and so on are the areas of these polygons as shown in the shaded section of figure 1, so which is over here, and P1, P2, P3 and so on are the precipitation at the rain gauge stations 1, 2, 3 and so on. So at that point of time, if you check out, if I try to highlight these with different colors, so this will be the second effective area. Just a minute. Yeah, I'll just take these two examples. Let us not confuse. Even we'll solve the problems on these particular Thiessen polygon method, so that time this will be much more clearer to you. So here I am going to shade one more area. Okay, so here you forget regarding 2. Okay, so there will be a bit of complication over there. Fine. Now if I just try to explain with respect to these two, okay, so for this catchment area, if I see how many number of rain gauge stations are there are 3, that is rain gauge station 1, rain gauge station 3 and rain gauge station 4. So 2 and 5 are out of our section catchment area, so let us not consider those two. Okay, now I'll just rename these particular number as 1, 2 and 3. At that point of time, what this is indicating is P1 is the rainfall recorded from the station 1 and similarly A1 is the polygon area that has been created with the help of procedures. That's now what we have learned. Similarly, P2 is nothing but the precipitation at station 2 and A2 is nothing but the effective area of that, and similarly P3 is the precipitation at station 3 with area 3. So keeping this in mind, whenever I want to determine this mean precipitation over this entire area, at that point of time I need to make sure that the same general equation what I have shown in the previous slide, the same thing will apply over here. So here it will be what? Px or P bar will be is equals to P1 A1 plus P2 A2 plus P3 A3 and so on. So in this case only 3 stations are there, so that's why I am taking that, divided by A1 plus A2 plus A3. So this A1, A2, A3 is indicating the overall area of the catchment, that is A. So whenever we do this, basically you are going to get the mean precipitation over that particular area. Okay, so this is how we initially need to draw these Thiessen polygons and then we need to go for the calculation of mean precipitation. So here two things I'd like to say before we conclude this. First one is we need to make sure that practically whenever we do this particular method, so you have seen all these random shapes which are coming up. Yeah, so these are not the regular shapes. So with the help of formulas, if you try to calculate its area, it is going to become very difficult. So that's why we can use a planimeter that is used to determine the area of any particular shape. So with the help of that planimeter, basically we calculate the effective area. So then our work will be much faster. Okay, now the second point that I want to highlight over here is whenever the Thiessen polygon problems come into your examination, purely from the point of your examination, that time what they usually do is, instead of giving such a random shape which is already you are seeing on the screen, they will give you, let us say, a square. Okay, and they say that on top of that there is a triangle, and usually for such what I can say recognizable shapes. Okay, so from where you need to calculate the effective areas. So if the shapes are like triangle, your square or a rectangle or a trapezoidal, so at that point of time what will happen is you can have your given set of formulas with which you can actually determine the effective areas. Okay, so whenever we solve the problems, so we are going to come across such kind of a shape, not these random shapes. But whenever it is a practical case, what you are going to do, so at that point of time planimeter is used instead of these standard formulas. But here also either whether it is with for the practical purpose or for the examination point of view, you need to know how to draw these polygons first, because if you don't draw these polygons accurately, then your entire further calculations will be wrong. Okay, so that's why determination or else drawing of these particular polygons are also going to make a very significant point whenever we come to the solving of this Thiessen polygon method. Okay, so here itself, if I just show you this, so this p bar is equals to the formula just now what I have shown with respect to the example. The same thing, since this p1, a1, p2, a2 can be what I can say generalized, so that's why they have taken it as what, 1 by a, because the denominator addition of all these will become what, a. So that's why they have taken it outside the summation. Then they have put this summation I varying from 1 to n pi into ai. So that is indicating P1 A1 plus P2 A2 plus P3 A3 and so on. Okay, that is nothing but this particular formula. So based on that, even we can have a small correction over here, where P bar is equals to this capital A, this total area is actually taken below this AI. Okay, so this AI by A factor which is there, so this is even called as a weightage factor. This is called as weightage factor. So weightage factor is indicating what? It is the effective area for a rain gauge station divided by the whole catchment area. I'll repeat myself. It is weightage factor is nothing but the effective area for a particular rain gauge station divided by the whole catchment area. So once we use this particular scenario over here, what one more way of problems that they might ask you is, instead of giving you such shapes and you only trying to determine the polygon area, they might directly give you this area weightage. So whenever they give you area weightage, then no need of drawing all these. So directly with the help of this formula, you can directly get the answer over here. Okay, so at that point of time, your formula is going to be what? Summation of I varying from 1 to n. It is pi of ai by a. Okay, so this is how basically we can calculate the mean precipitation in one more way. Now the last one what we have, that is with respect to the isoheital method. Okay, so in this let us go through the theoretical aspect first, then we'll go for the figure. An isoheight is a line joining the points of equal precipitation. From the known precipitation records at the rain gauge stations, the isoheights are traced on the catchment area at a known intervals as shown in the figure. So basically here what they are trying to say is an isoheight, what we call it. So these particular lines are indicating nothing but the isoheights. Okay, so as we have seen with respect to the contours, so contours are nothing but what? It is the imaginary line those join the points of equal RL. So basically what you have studied in your survey, right? So these contours are nothing but what? These are the imaginary lines which join the points of equal RL, whereas these isoheights are nothing but these are the imaginary lines that join the points of equal rainfall precipitation. Okay, so instead of this RL over here if the this line is joining the points of equal precipitation, then we are going to call that as a isoheight. Continuing, that's it. Okay, the areas between these isoheights are planimetered if A1, A2 and so on are the areas between P1 and P2, P2 and P3 and so on, then the mean precipitation is estimated from P bar is equals to A1 into bracket P1 plus P2 by 2 plus A2 into P2 plus P3 by 2 and so on, divided by A. So here also what we are trying to do is, so this particular equation is exactly similar to what we have studied, the general aspect, what I have explained it to you a few slides back. So here this P bar, that is your particular mean precipitation, will always be is equals to P1 into A1, P1 plus P2 into A2, okay, A2 plus P3 into A3, yeah, divided by A1 plus A2 plus A3. Okay, so what does this indicate? Here, how are we going to relate this particular generalized equation with this one is, so in each of this we have A1, A2, A3, Okay, similarly here also we have A1, A2 and A3. Now similarly this P1, basically we usually used to consider this as a one individual parameter. Okay, but whenever it comes to this isohytal method, what we need to do is, here it will be like, so example, what this thing I am hatching it out right now. Okay, so this, for this area, for this particular area, okay, so we need to take the rainfall as the mean of the rainfall of these two values. Right now here you can check out, it is 4 mm and 5 mm. So these are the rainfall iso heights for 4 mm and for 5 mm. So here the area between these two particular iso heights I am going to consider, that itself is going to become what, your A1. Yeah, now similarly P1 will be is equals to what, it is the average value of this particular iso height and the next one. So here itself they are explaining it as P1 and P2. So here the value of P1 will be 4, P2 will be 5 in this particular explanation what I am giving you. So it is the average of these two. So average of 4 and 5 will be what, 4.5. so that will be the value of what, P1. So this P1 in generalized equation is replaced by this P1 plus P2 by 2 in the isohytal formula. Okay, so keeping this in mind, now if I just continue, so similarly we'll have, I'll just try to write these names. Okay, so here imagine this as your P1, this as your P2, next P3, P4 and so on. So basically based on these nomenclatures, okay, whatever we give, so based on that we are going to have this P1, P2, P2, P3, P3, P4 and so forth till the nth number of our particular case. Okay, so now you might have a question about what happens to these end sections, because you can see there is only one iso height which is falling in. So this P1 is falling for this particular area, whereas again for this last section only one iso height is moving on. So at that point of time what you are going to do, so at that point basically we can have here the rainfall you can consider it as what, 0 plus P1, that is 4 divided by 2, that is here it will be, the answer is going to be what, 2, sorry. Yeah, so here the answer is going to be 2. So whenever you don't have for the end cases, whether it is starting part or the ending part, where we have only one iso height with us, so at that point of time this particular averaging part will become difficult. So that's why one of the values, so whether it is starting point or ending point, you can take that as a 0 and you can calculate the mean precipitation or else average precipitation for that particular section. Okay, so keeping this in mind, let us proceed. Yeah, in this the area between the iso heights is multiplied by mean isohytal value and the sum of these products is divided by the total area of the basin to obtain P bar. Okay, so whatever the numerator is there, so this entire calculation what we do, we divide it by the total area that is going to be there in the denominator. Isohytal method is better and faster than Thiessen polygon method when the number of rain gauge stations is large. So this particular method is much more helpful whenever we have a large section of area with huge number of rain gauge stations. So these basically will help us in determining these effective areas as well as mean precipitation over the entire area with much more accuracy, and it can be done in a much faster way when you compare it with the Thiessen polygon method. Okay, so here also whenever we think of your examination, okay, from the point of your examination, so this particular explanation or the data what they might give you is here they might give you in 2 or 3 ways. So basically we can solve these problems in 2 or 3 ways. First one is they might give you some statistical data with which you need to initially tabulate that. Okay, so what I meant by that is basically they may give you station name. Okay, then they may give you the rainfall data collected for those stations. Along with that they might give you the area between the those particular stations. Okay, so or else directly they might give you around, directly they might give you with respect to the areas enclosed by these isohyets with the what I can say rainfall range for these particular isohyets. So in that case, how the representation is going to be will be something similar to they might give you rainfall range, they might give you, okay, then the area enclosing these particular rainfall data. So that is, here they might give you this as 4 to 5 and the area covered, that is, let us say 60 kilometers squared. Yeah, so something similar to this. Next one will be what, 5 to 6. Here if you check out in this figure what I am trying to show here, so for 5 to 6 this value may be 5 to 6 and here it may be 70 kilometers square and so on. So they can actually give your question in this way. So based on this we need to have the calculation done as per the formula that has been given above. Okay, so this is how we can basically solve the problems on isohydral method. Yeah, so with all these right now what we have discussed, so this will be the end of first module. So in this what all things have we covered? So in the first module we have started with how or else the hydrological statistics, so world water resource, Indian water resource we have done. Then we have gone through the hydrological cycle. So in that hydrological cycle we have done with three different types. One is descriptive explanation, second one is engineering explanation, and third one is your um, Horton's representation. So three things we have studied for the hydrological cycle. Apart from that, we have gone through what are the practical applications of hydrology. Then we have studied 11 different forms of precipitation. Then we have studied different types of precipitation where we had four major classification. Apart from that, then we studied how a rainfall occurs in an environment. Okay, so how that evaporation takes place, how the clouds are being formed, what are the significant factors over there that we have studied. Apart from that, next we have gone through the rain gauge stations or else measurement of rainfall. So in this rain gauge stations we had three types. One was non-recording type of rain gauge station, then we had recording, and then we had telemetric type of rain gauge stations. So in all these again we had different ways. So that is, in non-recording we had Simon's type of rain gauge. For recording we have studied with weighing bucket type, tipping bucket type, and siphon type of rain gauge station. Now similarly in the telemetric we have studied with respect to the radar as well as tipping bucket type of rain gauge station. Now apart from that we have studied with the rain gauge network. So in this rain gauge network, as per Indian Meteorological Department and the World Meteorological Department, they had given us a statistical values that ideally for a rain gauge station what should be the effective area, or else based on the plain area, whether it is a hilly area or it is a what I can say polar or arid region, so where the amount of rainfall will be very less. So based on that they have given us a different statistical value where we can actually get what should be the optimum number of rain gauge station in a particular area. Apart from that we have studied with respect to the rain gauge optimum number of rain gauge stations. So if you remember that n is equals to Cv by epsilon squared. So with that formula we actually determined for an accurate representation of rainfall data that has been collected how many number of rain gauge stations are required for a practical world. So those things we have studied. Then we had it for checking for the continuity of data, then consistency of data, and the last one was to determine the effective area or mean precipitation over a particular catchment area. Okay, so all these sections have been covered under module 1. Okay, so even I had shown just one simple problems for wherever it is possible from these particular sections. So in the next class we'll continue with these problems, or we'll go ahead with the second chapter theoretical aspect. So we'll decide based on your availability in the college. Yeah.